Thursday. Good evening. I'm Krisan Ashkate. Welcome to APTN National News. We start in Saskatchewan, where an 18-year-old male has died after a firearm incident in Pelican Narrows over the weekend. Pelican Narrows RCMP responded to a report about a young man seriously injured early Saturday morning. RCMP say the man was transported from a home to the local health clinic by members of the public, where not long after he was pronounced deceased. RCMP have not released his name but say his family was notified. Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes, along with the Historical Case Unit and Forensic Identification Section, are assisting Pelican Narrows RCMP with the investigation. A 13-year-old boy has died and a 17-year-old has been arrested over the weekend in a First Nation in northern Manitoba. According to RCMP, last Saturday afternoon, Mounties answered a call to a home in Pimichikamak Cree Nation where a 13-year-old boy had been shot. He was taken to the nursing station and later pronounced deceased. A 17-year-old who was at the home at the time of the shooting was arrested and charged with manslaughter. RCMP says the investigation continues this week and there are no additional suspects. In a statement, Pimichikamak Cree Nation Chief David Monias said, "Our community is deeply saddened by this loss. We are placing our trust in the police to conduct a thorough investigation and provide answers. Out of respect for the family and loved ones, we must allow them the space to grieve during this difficult time." Chief Monias is asking for privacy for the families involved. Manitoba RCMP have recently found human remains in a First Nation in northern Manitoba. Police say partial skeletal remains have been found near Tatasquayak Cree Nation in Manitoba. On Friday, Thompson RCMP officers visited a spot on the shore of Split Lake, which is currently at a lower than normal water levels. RCMP say the remains found in the sand are believed to be historical in nature. RCMP will now investigate with the assistance of an anthropologist. The chiefs of 8 First Nations with the Southern Chiefs Organization are calling for an emergency summit to hold a non-confidence vote against their Grand Chief. In a letter to SCO, Grand Chief Jerry Daniels dated August 18th, the 8 chiefs claim Daniels acted outside his scope of authority when he signed a memorandum of understanding with Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand last week. The chiefs who signed the letter said they had no knowledge of the MOU, nor were they provided with documents before or after it was signed. The MOU says the SCO will work with the MMF over 5 years on an economic development strategy. As of airtime, APTN has not heard back from SCO. SCO represents 32 First Nations in Manitoba. An update to this year's wildfire season was given by 3 federal cabinet ministers in a virtual press conference in Ottawa today, and it was not good news about the scope of the fires. This wildfire season is the second worst on record in terms of hectares burned. Fires have consumed a combined area roughly the size of New Brunswick. And as of August 18th, 707 wildfires are currently burning in Canada. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Golmasti added that 25 Indigenous communities continue to battle wildfires and 12,000 First Nations citizens remain evacuated. As well, it was announced the Yorkton Tribal Council in Saskatchewan will receive $335,000 to train 35 people to help reduce wildfire risks and mitigation.
We are here with you not just for this season, but through every step ahead. Stay safe and please take care of yourselves and take care of one another. The challenges that we are facing can only be faced and worked on by collaborating and supporting one another. Thank you. Merci.
And it was a closely watched by-election in Alberta today. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is trying to regain a seat in Parliament in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. The riding is considered to be one of the safest Conservative ridings in Canada. A record 214 candidates are on the ballot and running against Poilievre. Polls opened this morning at 10:30 a.m. and will close later this evening.
just be another puppet.
I think he's perfect to represent this riding.
He's going back to Ottawa or Ontario and staying there. He doesn't care about us.
One of the objectives of the Native Counseling Services of Alberta is to produce videos designed to help Indigenous youth and adults. And their latest documentary, called Into the Light, reveals that human trafficking is very real in Alberta. APTN's Chris Stewart has the story.
When people say human trafficking, the first thing they think of is people being brought in from other countries. And it's like, no. It's in the high schools here. It's in the group homes here. It's in your backyard.
Bear Paw Media and Education is an arm of the Native Counseling Services of Alberta. Their production, Into the Light, was created to teach, especially Indigenous people, about the dangers and warning signs of human trafficking. After visiting 50 communities, it became clear that human trafficking hits the Indigenous community especially hard, and more education was needed to fight it. Marlene Orr is the CEO of Native Counseling Services of Alberta.
And then when we look at the data that's out there of survivors of human trafficking, the majority, over 50% of the people that are trafficked are Indigenous women and girls, despite making up, 5% of the population? And so we very quickly realized that we had to do some education in our communities.
Financed by the Provincial Public Safety Department, Into the Light shows that now even preteen girls are being targeted by predators at powwows, group homes, and online.
There was a time when the target for people being trafficked were, 18 to 24, 18 to 30. And what we're seeing and hearing about is that we're talking about children as young as 12 years old being targeted by traffickers, being groomed by traffickers, and that there's a huge online presence of traffickers.
And it's not the image of a woman being abducted and thrown into a van. It's manipulating them with loving words and gifts. And it works on young, vulnerable girls.
The insidious nature of it is they love bomb. These folks think that this person is in love with them. They're going to take care of them. They buy them gifts. They treat them well. They say the right things. And then when they have manipulated them emotionally and mentally, now there's a price to pay for all of that.
The price is being forced to work the streets. Orr says it's important to know what your children are doing and to educate yourself on the signs of grooming and trafficking.
Young people are unattended on social media almost 24/7. And we all think we're monitoring what our kids know, but I knew when my son was 8, he knew how to use the parental controls on the TV better than I did. We need to know what they're seeing. We need to know what they have access to.
We don't necessarily know what our kids are up to online. I think that's really important for parents to really familiarize themselves with the signs of someone being trafficked, and to really work on that relationship with their child, so that they can be aware of who's talking to them about what.
The video is available on Bear Paw Media and Education's YouTube page. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Coming up next, we'll speak to a Grand Chief who says both the Manitoba and federal government haven't done enough preventative measures to combat wildfires in the north. That interview when we come back. Welcome back. 4 First Nations in the Island Lake region of Manitoba have been deeply impacted by wildfires this year. There is currently an out-of-control wildfire in the area, almost 40,000 hectares in size. Thousands of residents were evacuated in early July, and some started to return home last week. The chiefs of St. Teresa Point, Wasagamak, Garden Hill, and Red Sucker Lake have all called on the government to invest more in wildfire prevention. They are represented by Ashinanu Okamawan Grand Chief Alex McDougall. He joins us now. Thanks for joining us in studio, Grand Chief McDougall. My first question is, can you tell us a bit about how First Nations in the Island Lake region have been impacted by Manitoba wildfires this year? I hear bridges have been destroyed and some communities have been evacuated multiple times.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. The fire evacuations, particularly this year, have been taking quite a big impact on our communities, particularly from our area, Island Lake, and the 4 Hanshininu communities that are located in that area. Garden Hill, Hansinu Nation, St. Teresa Point, Hansinu Nation, Wasagamak, Hansinu Nation, and Red Sucker Lake, Hansinu Nation. The evacuations this summer particularly saw roughly over 6,000 of our members being evacuated as a result of the smoke being affecting our communities, and of course fire threatening our communities. So it's had a substantial impact on our communities, our members, and of course our leadership, and the lack of resources that have obviously become very painfully obvious that there are some resources that are needed in our region to sort of combat those annual forest fires that we see in our area. This year, through climate change and perhaps even industry, have contributed, I think, to the dry conditions that we've seen in Manitoba and in Canada. And the water levels in our area have been at a historic low. I've never seen the water levels to be the height that it's at, and I think it's contributing to the conditions that make our area a high-risk fire zone.
Mm-hmm. Grand Chief, this summer is, from what we can tell, the worst wildfire season in Manitoba since they began recording wildfires 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. More than 1 million hectares gone so far. Do you think all levels of government could have been better prepared, and if so, how?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think going back from my recollection, 2017, I was currently chief for my community of Wasagamak. We also faced a similar evacuation of our community as we've seen this summer with Garden Hill and Hansinu Nation, where there was a complete evacuation called and essentially families being uprooted from their homes, running from the fire, and the governments and their response. This is what I believe to be still happening, is that there's really no proactive approach to fire suppression. They react more or less, and spending a lot of resources in the evacuation process. I think in the neighborhood of 650 million annually, and just shy of 2 million in responses, and I think that needs to change. We need to flip that around and have more investments in our communities where we're allowed to build capacity locally and be able to respond to these fires before they get out of hand.
Is there anything the First Nations can do to help train local band members in how to build fire breaks, for example, or train them how to be firefighters?
Mm-hmm. Yes, but before I answer that, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our trained firefighters who happens to be from Garden Hill, Daphne Munias. Parents are Susan and Vandell Harper from Garden Hill. She's been fighting these forest fires alongside resources that are being deployed from Mexico and other areas to help with the fires. So I'd like to commend her and all of the firefighters that have responded to the crisis, and encourage our community members to take opportunities where there is training to allow us to develop those skills locally. So, yeah, the conditions is something that I think our leadership are seeing very clear now, that we need to have additional critical infrastructure being brought into our community so that we are able to plan for these seasonal events. And we're only seeing that increase as far as the forest fires. So we don't have any all-weather road system coming in that would allow, should we be able to escape dangerous situations using that critical infrastructure. There is no hospital in the Anna Lake area, where you have a population of some 15,000 people, and yet when you compare that population size to other rural populations, they have all of that critical infrastructure. The only difference there is most of them are non-First Nations communities.
Mm-hmm. Assassinu Okinawan recently put out 5 demands of the federal and provincial government in regards to wildfire response, including the need for a national Indigenous fire strategy. Can you tell us more about this really briefly?
Yeah. We're calling on all levels of government, federal and provincial, to work with our community leadership in a tripartite process, where we hope that governments can utilize our knowledge of our territory in developing a comprehensive fire suppression program that would hopefully see support and continued investment by federal and provincial governments. I think it's critical that when you're planning for programming and service delivery in an area, it's important that the communities are also part of that process. And being part of that process is simply having us at that table and us being involved in those discussions, and more importantly, the planning and the resourcing that we would need to be able to effectively have a fire suppression program with Canada and the province.
Grand Chief, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Ribbon skirts have become a hot commodity all over social media. And coming up next, we'll introduce you to some of those designers. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Rick snapped this photo of a metal sculpture during a vacation in Osoyoos, BC. The sculpture depicts the Okanagan salmon chief and was made by Indigenous artist Smokers Martian. Thank you for the photo, Rick. Send us your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Time now to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the east coast, Fredericton 21, Halifax 22. Cartwright 17, the Grand River 8. Quebec City 20, 22 in Montreal and partly cloudy. Toronto 27, Sarnia 23. 14 in Big Trout Lake, Thunder Bay 16. Puckatawagan, Smoky and 14, Thompson 13. 19 in Brandon, sunny in Princess Harbor at 24. Rain in Regina at 31, Yorkton 24. 18 in Meadow Lake, La Ronge 13. Showers in High Level at 17, sunny in Fort Chipewyan at 14. 29 in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat 30. 22 in Kamloops, Penticton 23. 13 in Sandspit, rain in Prince Rupert at 16. 9 in Beaver Creek, Mayo 20 and sunny. 12 in Fort Simpson and rain, Wati 17. Tuktoyaktuk 5, Paulatuk 10. Whale Cove 10, Chesterfield 13. In the Iqaluit 5, Igloolik 6. No matter where you scroll, ribbon skirts and Indigenous designers have been popping up across social media, and one fabric store in Winnipeg has been growing in popularity for designers. Recently, Marshall Fabrics has been offering a large variety of Indigenous design fabrics. Our Julia Ross spoke with designers in the community.
This is where it all started. Coming here, it just amazes me when I first walked in through these stores. I'm like, wow, like I'd never seen so much fabric in my life, and it's just like there's just so many ideas, and I'm very welcomed here.
With a demand for Indigenous pattern fabrics growing, a store in Winnipeg has emerged as the place to be for ribbon skirt designers. Marshall Fabrics has a large variety of designs for the community. Erin Kemble manages the store. She says their collection has been a win-win for everyone.
I think they've been good for both us and the designers, and for us it's just a way for us to showcase and celebrate our customers.
Tyler Moody is one of the many artists to begin their fashion designing journey at Marshall's.
People like recognize me. It's like, oh, that's that native guy that makes ribbon skirts. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's who I am known as now. So within that, I'm just like, really proud to like hear that.
Moody is from Nelson House Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. He says that he is proud of the community he comes from and wants to inspire youth.
As a man, for myself, like it's really rare to find someone doing this work. So for me to be breaking those barriers to show not only myself as a man, but for those younger male and youth who also want to do the same thing.
Olga Roskoff is also a designer. She began working at Marshall's 27 years ago. She's been sewing for 45. 2 years ago, her sister suggested getting into the ribbon skirt business.
My sister Danielle, who lives up in DePaul, suggested that we get into this, and of course I've tried many times doing craft tables and stuff like that, but they never worked out, and I thought, well, this is not going to work out. I was very negative about it, but we said, well, let's try. So we did, and now it's accelerated to the point that I must have made over 500 skirts in the last over 2 years.
Now, her and her sister run their two businesses, Clanwear and OG Creations.
My two younger sisters, they do the ribbon work. They iron the ribbons all on, and then I put them together. So I have massive piles of skirts ready to be sewn.
Olga says she buys all of her materials here and is part of a thriving community.
I've met a lot of beautiful people working in this industry.
Moody taught himself to sew over the past 8 months. He's been very successful with his designing. So much so that he is now teaching young people how to design and sew their own ribbon skirts and dress shirts with ribbons.
So many well-gifted and talented youth that want to be heard and seen. So within that, I continue to spread that awareness for them, and just to know that they do really matter, because there's days on days where they just don't know if they matter.
He says that when he designs, he feels connected to home.
Within my creations, what I do is that it has so much meaning behind it, because my grandparents are with me every time I create something. I feel that there's always something with me.
Moody believes that people should continue to teach the youth designing and traditions.
For the men who want to sew, I feel that you need to carry this tradition on, because this is who we are and this is where we come from, is that we were only taught hand sewing back in the days.
Indigenous-inspired fabric designs have inspired more artists and more youth to upgrading their sewing skills. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
That's your evening newscast for this Monday. Your daytime newscast is back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Winnipeg time. Hi, miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.